The aesthetic movements of Taekwondo is comparable to the ancient Korean dances, as you see here performed in the palace grounds in Seoul, Korea. I would now like to take this opportunity to introduce General Choi Hong-Hi, the founder of Taekwondo.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the President of the International Taekwondo Federation, I am very pleased to present to you our first recognized training film. You will see some of our finest instructors performing Taekwondo techniques. I will now introduce Robert Walson, 5th degree black belt, and the Vice Chairman of the Expansion Committee and member of the ITF Board of Directors.
It is an honor to share in presenting this film to all martial art enthusiasts. I hope it serves to introduce our art throughout the world. This is the ITF recognition plaque, which is awarded to all accredited ITF instructors. Mr. Kim Young-soo demonstrates a flying kick against several pieces of tile. Our first pattern, Chunji, is also performed by Mr. Kim, 5th degree black belt, former instructor at the ITF Training Center in Seoul, Korea. This pattern means heaven and earth and must be practiced by all students, black belts as well as beginning white belts. General Choi has said that he's often met instructors who, though they could perform high-ranking forms quite well, had forgotten some of their basic forms. This is a pattern that must be performed over and over again. Dangun is performed by Mr. Ra Young-chul.
5th degree black belt. He's teaching in Denver, Korea.
Mr. Ra suffers from a handicap that perhaps may have discouraged lesser students from participating in Taekwondo. Mr. Ra lost his arm during the Korean War, yet this has obviously not hindered the development of outstanding techniques. Most of these patterns were performed in the early morning on dew-slick grass, making it extremely difficult to maintain proper balance. It is a compliment that they were able to perform so ably under these conditions.
3-step sparring conducted by Mr. Ra Young-chul and Kim Young-soo.
3-step sparring is the initial basic sparring exercise for beginner students. It familiarizes students with correct attack and defense techniques against high, middle, and low targets while stepping forward and backward. 3-step sparring introduces the theories of focus, timing, and coordination to the novice student.
This is 2-step sparring conducted by, again, Ra Young-chul and Kim Young-soo. And this particular sparring is very excellent to learn the combination movement of hand and foot.
As I mentioned before, the beautiful and historic backdrop of the palace grounds in Seoul, Korea were used to introduce this film. Although Korea was the birthplace of Taekwondo, General Choi Hong-Hi felt that for Taekwondo to be a truly international art, the headquarters had to be centrally located for the mutual benefit of all students. This prompted him to relocate in 1972 in Toronto, Canada. Dosan is performed by Mr. Yoon Kum Chung against several opponents to demonstrate the practicality of the form. Students demonstrate techniques through the performance of free sparring, power testing, and patterns. Of the three, patterns best represents the basic beauty of Taekwondo. The pattern is the portion most closely studied by the tester. It should be an aesthetic marriage of concentration, balance, and speed. Don't make it a rote-learned pattern of movements. Feel the pattern. Study it. It should be performed naturally and flawlessly. Pattern Wan Hyo was performed by Mr. Kwon Shun, who now teaches in São Paulo, Brazil. If you study these patterns carefully, you'll notice there are no wasted motions. Each technique has a practical meaning that can logically be used in sparring. In many martial art forms, there's wasted dynamic tension motions, etc. You'll find that the Taekwondo forms, perfected by General Choi Hong-Hi after years of study, are the most logical forms that you will ever find in any martial art. Yoguk is performed by Mr. Choi Kwang-jo, 6th degree black belt, presently teaching in Detroit, Michigan. Mr. Choi previously taught in Malaysia and Singapore.
Pattern Jungun is performed by Yoon Kum Jung.
When learning and performing your particular pattern, you should ensure that you know which each and every motion in the pattern is. Do you have a clear logical understanding of what every motion represents?
If you do not, ask your instructor. If you do not have an instructor available, you can write General Choi. Ask him specific technical questions, and he will answer them. If you do not understand all of your techniques, then you are just wasting your time, and you will never perform the pattern successfully.
Mr. Wilson is breaking a brick with knife hand, and he was instructor for Hong Kong and the Netherlands.
Brick was broken with pure technique, no tricks. I'm sure many of you have witnessed phony brick-breaking techniques, and you should always be ready to expose them. This is defense against a sudden attack.
Kim Yong-soo and Lee Jae-sun. Now, pattern 30 is performed again by Kwon-jun in Sao Paulo, Brazil. He will be promoted to 6th degree next year.
Watch this pattern closely. Now, this is not a foot-blocking motion, but merely a swinging of the leg for additional power. The arm performs the block, not the leg. There's been much confusion on this pattern. Notice the hip motion in each block and attack motion.
Pattern Harang is performed by Rayong Chul.
Harang pattern was named after the legendary Taekwon-Do, the warriors of the Silla dynasty. Now you'll notice that Mr. Ra executes this form in a most precise manner. To keep abreast of the latest developments in Taekwondo, I advise all of you to subscribe to the Taekwondo Digest, which can be ordered through Mr. Chuck Seraph in Denver, Colorado. We will continue to have techniques illustrated in this magazine.
Pattern Chungmu. Chungmu is named after Admiral Lee Sun-sin, who invented the present-day submarine in 1592.
The most famous and revered of all of Korea's legendary patriots, Commander Yi Sun-sen, ill-equipped and betrayed countless times by his own Korean court, saved the Korean nation from Japanese invasions on 2 separate occasions. He was killed in his last magnificent battle, and is truly the Nelson of the Pacific. This form is being demonstrated by Mr. Kim Yong-sul.
Model sparring, what we say, similar to one-step sparring, by Mr. Rayong Chul and Kim Yong-soo.
Please note that the attacker does not, I repeat, does not step back to signal his attack. He merely moves forward, initiating an attacking technique, a punch or a kick. It is a responsibility of the defender to anticipate the technique being used and block and counterattack with speed, power, and focus. This is an ideal training aid for the development of timing and coordination. The pattern Kwanghae is being performed by Mr. Pak Chung-soo, 7th degree black belt from Toronto, Canada. The pattern is named after the great Korean king Kwanghae, who recovered the lost territories of the Korean peninsula, including Manchuria. He is one of the most well-known Korean historical figures.
Double side kick. Combination block. That is stamping motion. Again, stamping.
This is a two-way break.
By Mr. Rayong Chul. Pattern Pone. Pone is named after the great scholar Chung Mong-ju, and he was known as Confucius of Korea.
This is an excellent pattern for exercising hand techniques and blocking motions.
The Taekwondo pattern is more than an extension of your training. It is the nucleus of Taekwondo. Preciseness, timing, breath control, and focus should be perfected, and then speed and power will naturally follow.
Pattern Quebec, performed by Mr. Kong Young-il.
Mr. Kong was a member of the 1973 ITF World Demonstration Team that toured Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Mr. Kong now teaches in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was formerly chief instructor in Baltimore, Maryland.
Also, he was Korean champion of Taekwondo in 1968.
Some instructors, steeped in their own ego, believe it is their right and destiny to invent their own patterns. The development of a pattern is not an instant revelation. It takes a great deal of study, practical application, and the input of hundreds of instructors.
That's foot technique sparring. They use only foot. Ra Young-chul and Kim Yong-soo.
Taekwondo is widely recognized for its superiority in foot techniques, not only in its use as an attacking tool, but also for the imaginative manner in which feet are employed in blocking and dodging techniques. Notice all kicks are fully extended, hip power is used, and perfect balance is maintained at all times.
Pattern Uam is performed by Mr. Kim Yong-soo, 5th degree. Uam is named after Mr. Son Byung-hee, who is the leader of 33 patriots who made the movement of Korean independence against the Japanese in 1919.
Patterns are a critical barometer in evaluating an individual's techniques, and the following points should be considered while performing patterns. Number 1, the pattern should begin and end at exactly the same spot, which will indicate the performer's accuracy. Number 2, correct posture and facing must be maintained at all times. Number 3, muscles of the body should be either tensed or relaxed at the proper critical moments in the exercise. Number 4, the exercise should be performed in a rhythmic movement with an absence of stiffness. Number 5, movement should be accelerated or decelerated according to the instructions in the Taekwondo book. Number 6, each pattern should be perfected before moving to the next. Number 7, students should know the purpose of each movement. Number 8, students should perform each movement with realism. And number 9, attack and defense techniques should be equally distributed among right and left hands and feet.